So finally, thanks to my friends here at Triumph in Mumbai, the Mumbai dealership, they're absolutely fantastic people. They really helped me out. I've come here hundreds and hundreds of times for test rides, and they've always been so friendly and allowed me everything. But this is the first test ride I've done of the Tiger 900, which is so hotly anticipated. I absolutely adore this bike. This looks, now it feels like a sports bike. It doesn't feel like an adventure bike at all. You can't even remember that it has a 21-inch wheel and that you can take this off-road or anywhere that you want to go, and it can handle all of that really well. It is so light that it almost feels like a Hero X Pulse, and I'm not exaggerating. I really felt like that when I was riding the bike. It didn't feel the weight at all. It's very nimble, moves in and out of traffic very easily. It's absolutely a glorious bike. If there's one thing, it's the new engine characteristics have added a little bit of vibes to the front handlebars, and that's something that is an individual preference, and it may bother you to a certain extent, especially if you're doing long rides, and adventure bikes are often taken for long rides. But otherwise, Triumph have really managed to pull off a miracle with this bike, because all the negatives of an adventure bike, things like the 21-inch wheel, which make it lack a little bit of character or a little bit of lack of feel at the front end, completely gone from this bike. Feels like a sports bike, maneuvers in and out of traffic, gets into sharp corners, you can't feel the weight at all. It's nimble, agile, beautiful. So it's very rideable, very practical. Everything about this bike is absolutely amazing, apart from the vibrations on the front handlebars. And that is to do with the characteristics of the new engine, which is expanded from the 800cc to 888cc now. The Tiger 900 has a different firing order, and because of that, it has a lot of low-end torque and grunt, which is considered desirable in adventure bikes and off-roading bikes. And some people complained about the 800's ability there because the wheel used to spin up. But if you're looking to ride this primarily on the road, the 800 was a great machine. It used to zip through, and it used to have that high revving, free revving character, which was really fun. This has changed that to a certain degree and added a bit of raucousness and kind of a low-end grunt to the entire feel of the engine. The whistle still remains, but it's joined by a growl. So it's really interesting, and some people may like it. This is definitely going to polarize people. If you want a smooth, buttery engine, the 800 is going to be your choice. But if you want grunt and you want other things from your adventure bike, then this engine is going to be your choice, because it definitely has added a lot of oomph at the bottom end, which the Tiger never had. It's done it at the cost of some of that high revving, free revving nature and a few vibes. So that's something that you'll have to decide between. But what a new, fantastic offering from Triumph. All right, so finally we're riding the Tiger 900. It's finally reached our shores, reached our city, reached my dealer. They've been kind enough to give me a test ride on this afternoon. So I'm going to take a look at it. I've already ridden it from the showroom to a little bit further here, and I just want to check what the LCD looks like so that I can change it and get the RPM meter on board and stuff like that. And otherwise, so far, first impressions, very quick impressions. This bike is extremely light. It feels like a street bike. Does not feel like an adventure bike at all. But all of that you can only discover in terms of how you'll feel with the bike once you have it long term, or once you ride it a little bit more long term, like a couple of hours, or get on the highway. This is just a quick ride for first impressions. So let me see what it feels like. Wow, this has a lot of punch. At the bottom end of the engine, it's far more responsive at the bottom end. Very, very flickable. This, I cannot believe, is an adventure bike. It feels like a sports bike. It's really nimble, very light, goes in and out of traffic. You can't even remember that you have a 21-inch wheel up front. By the way, that wheel is now tubeless, so that takes all the issues of repairing punctures and stuff like that out of the equation. It's got a lot of grunt at the bottom end now. My God, I feel like I'm riding the street triple, the way it's maneuvering. The braking is fantastic. It's like a sports bike. that you can take anywhere. The kind of feeling that I'm getting is similar to the Multistrada actually. The Multistrada 950. Braking is exactly like a sports bike. The feeling is exactly like a sports bike. It's so light. I cannot believe the front wheel is a 21-inch. Engine character. Very grunty. Kind of raw. It has a Ducati-like energy. Almost feels like a V-twin somehow. But here the throttle. And look at how nimble this is. I'm turning it around and handling it like it's a street bike, like it's a short street bike. It's very confidence inspiring. In terms of the handling, I love this bike. In terms of the engine, I love this bike. The Tiger, phenomenal. Compared to the previous bike, the Tiger 800, which is butter smooth, absolutely. There is a definite raucous energy to this thing, but that's been exchanged for the absolute smoothness that this bike was completely famous for. So there is a certain amount of vibration. That's okay on the tank. That's fine. I mean, the tank's not going to bother you that much, but the handlebars, they needed to have balanced that out with something. But otherwise, from all other aspects, I think this gets massive thumbs ups. My God, the handling is absolutely superb. I cannot think of a bike that would handle so well, even with 17-inch wheels. I test rode the Z900 and the Kawasaki Ninja 1000 SX recently, and this bike is more nimble than both of those bikes. I think it's the combination of the wide handlebars and the stance where you kind of sit fairly high and you can move the bike around, and the confidence it inspires. But it's so flickable and so easy to move in and out of traffic. Just amazing. Initially I was having thoughts about whether I should choose the GT or the Rally, because the GT would be more street biased, but I see no problems with having the versatility of being able to go off-road with this kind of street bike that's doing everything so well on the street. Again, I'm amazed at how light this bike feels, how nimble, and I'm not exaggerating. I sometimes can trick myself into thinking that I'm sitting on the Hero X-Pulse or something. It's that maneuverable, that easy to flick in and out, that confidence inspiring in its brakes and in terms of in traffic and on these roads. And of course comes with the added advantage of not having to slow down for bumps because of the beautiful suspension. Great standing posture too. You can kind of, I can feel the tank with my knees, and I'm standing up. It's very easy to stand up, and because it's so light, feels very natural and much easier than on the Africa Twin even, which is saying a lot. And I cannot tell you how light, how handleable, how easy this is to ride, how much fun it is. Beautiful brakes, beautiful handling, so predictable, so well set up. By the way, I can't feel any of that famous Tiger heat on my legs anymore. So that's another wonderful thing that these guys seem to have done. Look at this bike, it's so maneuverable. I'm not thinking twice about taking it into small corners and nooks and breaks in traffic. It's just incredibly light. It's got a growl now, apart from the whistle. The earlier engine had the whistle's retained to a certain degree, but it's got a growl. I could never do this so easily despite being used to my Africa Twin. The clutch is light as a breeze. The gears just click into place, no problem. This, by the way, has a quick shifter, and I haven't tried that yet because honestly I don't really see all the benefits that people talk about of the quick shifter, because I have a DCT, so I guess I'm not really enamored by that sort of thing. But I think you have to be above a certain RPM. Oh, I just tried it and it's actually quite phenomenal. Now I know why people talk about it. Yeah, it does a great job. You don't have to worry about the clutch. You just shift the gear and it works beautifully. Wow. It does feel good. Let's try downshifting. Yeah, pretty good. What a beautiful machine. Amazing handling. Great bike. So this bike feels like a sports bike. I cannot believe that this is actually an adventure bike with a 21-inch wheel up front, and it can go anywhere because it has that magnificent suspension. Because this felt on this ride exactly like a street bike. It felt like a sports bike. It was very nimble, very, very light, so easy to handle, so easy to maneuver in and out of corners, cornering really well, managing traffic. All of that was fantastic. It's just an absolute amazing bike. The only problem that I feel, and it can be a significant problem for some people, is that there are lots of vibes coming up through the handlebars, and if you're doing long adventure rides in the country, that could turn out to be a bit of a problem for you. Otherwise, the new engine, I love the grunt of the engine. It's got a growl added to the whistle, and you would have seen all the reviews and the technology, but let me quickly sum it up for you. The triple engine now has a different kind of firing order, which makes it go 1, 3, 2, something like that, and because of that it's able to get some torque at the bottom end but also retain its rev happy nature. So this is truly a one in all bike. Really, it's like a sports bike. It doesn't feel like an adventure bike at all. I ride the Africa Twin, which is a fairly heavy bike, but riding this bike was worlds apart. It didn't feel like it's in the same family of bikes. Of course, the new Africa Twin Adventure Sports has also updated itself, and reports tell me that the chassis is much lighter and there's a manual option available which drops 10 kgs. So that should also be much lighter and much more fun and nimble, but we'll try that on another day. The test ride bike is making its way to Mumbai. For now, feast your eyes on this bike. It's absolutely gorgeous, very, very beautiful, really fun to ride.